So, what are those three key decisions that you took which, made your business successful, and the other two which were not as successful as you thought it to be?
So I think running a business involves making decisions every single day. If you ask me about my top three, I think the number one would be to position Getaway as a better for you brand, which sort of does not promote the diet culture, a leg of celebration to it where people can indulge without feeling guilty.
क्या ज़्यादा difficult था? Raising a capital when you actually thought that it is required, or raising a strong team?
One about the other, I would pick, getting the right team. Because even after raising funds to get the right team, you can make so many mistakes.
What truly drive businesses forward?
I think it's the greatest teams that you can build because
Hello and welcome to the People Engine podcast. For today's conversation, I have with me Pashmi Shah, the co-founder and CMO of Getaway Ice Cream. She's every bit of grit and passion you can imagine a founder to be. Join me in this exciting conversation on how she, her brother, and mother build their brand, businesses, and their team. So, Pashmi, I welcome you on the People Engine podcast. So, Pashmi, the very first thing which I really wanted to ask is when it comes to decision making, I think that is something which makes and breaks any businesses. So, what are those three key decisions that you took which made your business successful, and the other two which were not as successful as you thought it to be?
So I think running a business involves making decisions every single day. If you ask me about my top three, I think the number one would be to position Getaway as a better for you brand, which sort of does not promote the diet culture and has a leg of celebration to it where people can indulge without feeling guilty. So that was one where we were very solid about the fact that it's going to be all about high protein and no added sugar. It's promoting things that you love, but in a better format. The second one was doubling down on quick commerce, and I think that was very crucial for a business like ours, because the scale and the impulse purchases that came through that is just phenomenal, and it continues to grow for us. The third one would be expanding into a dessert portfolio. So we did that consciously somewhere last year, and primarily that makes us now a full stack dessert brand, and we could do a lot more experiments beyond ice creams. So that was an interesting one. What didn't really work, the number one would be experimenting too fast. And we tried to do a bunch of innovative products. We did a Mithai Bites ice cream format, which of course was very hard to manufacture because it involved a lot of labor. Similarly, we did another one which was a waffle bites. Great product. However, the channel was not right. We were selling on Zomato, Swiggy at that point, but something like a quick commerce, if was there at that point, would have been better. So I feel like experimenting a bit too early on and putting all your bandwidth there. And the second one would be taking a lot of time to launch products, right?
Okay.
We learned this the hard way. Of course, there was competition who were launching products left, right, and center. We wanted to do our R&D, get the product perfect, and then launch it. But sometimes it's not about launching the perfect product, but it's about launching it at the right time. So I think that is one decision that I feel like we've now internally recognized, and like we work on speed of launches.
Good to know. Pashmi, जैसे लोग कहते हैं, failures are more important for you in the long run for the business, not successes all the time. So do you really feel the same? That failures were important to happen?
So absolutely, I think the learning that you get with failures doesn't even compare, and you have to put yourself in those shoes, and you have to walk that hard mile to understand what your learnings really are, and those lessons are just invaluable.
Good. What gave you the conviction in the first place, you and probably Jimmy Auntie and Josh, that you can really take your home recipe and to make it a full-fledged business, What was the conviction about?
So honestly, when we started it, it was literally like us sending it to our friends and family, and we just told them, okay, try it. This is something that our mother made, and it's with protein and there's no sugar in it. Everyone was really excited because that wasn't a time where there was a protein wave in India, and everybody really loved it. They were the ones who encouraged us that okay, this is something that you need to share it with the world rather than just keep it to your minuscule self. And I think that was a proof of concept for us to decide that okay, let's take this to the next level and scale it at least at a manufacturer rather than produce it in the kitchen. Slowly we moved to a third party manufacturer, and we realized that the potential of this is really high, because there were a lot of people who were ordering products every single week. They were consuming ice creams worth 50,000, and that was something that came as a shocker to us as well. So I think that in itself was a driver.
Great. So Pashmi, with your answer, I know that you did that consumer checks before launching it as a full-fledged business. In absence of information, like any new product which is launched, for example, a bigger organization, which are your competes also, for them it is easier because they have that manpower, they have that financial muscle to first do the R&D on a larger scale and then launch a product and get into those signs. How difficult it was for you, or how easy it was for you without the data to going full blown in the business?
So absolutely, we did a primary research to just understand whether there is a market for better for you ice creams, and our initial research had a lot of skew towards people willing to try but not fully move towards this category. Over a period of time, we realized that if we make an ice cream which will taste as good as the regular one, that's when people will convert, and that was a tipping point. It takes a lot of R&D to get the recipe right. It was really tough for us, in the starting. Once we were making it in the kitchen, of course, we had a certain recipe and then add a particular level of protein, a sweetener which will sort of replace the sugar, etc. But the moment we decided to manufacture it, we knew that we had to get the recipe right to fulfill all the macros. And that was the hard part.
I understand. Pashmi, you have also worked in the past, right? You started a career with a company and then you got into this bandwagon of being an entrepreneur. So if I want you to choose, I'm sure the answer I know, but being an employee or being a founder, what gives you a better cake in life?
So, being an employee is basically playing the game, and being a founder is actually building the game. And I feel there's so much thrill in building, and it's obvious that I choose the founder route, and that literally gives me, a sense of fulfillment over anything else.
Okay, so it's coming from the heart?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. People normally say, and I also believe in this, that finding a life partner is far easier than finding a co-founder. How did you guys decide, all three of you, that yes, this is the moment to become one and change the status of a relationship from being a mother or a brother and a sister to co-founders? So how has that journey come about for you?
So honestly, none of this was planned, and when we launched the brand, it was three of us. Josh and I were working corporate jobs. Our mother has been running a jewelry business since the last 30 years. She decided to, give whole impetus to this dream project of ours, and we said, okay, we will run it as a side hustle while still working corporate jobs. But soon I realized a couple of months into the business that this is something that needs full-time dedication, and you cannot run it on the side. So I decided to quit my job and take this full-time. That's when Shark Tank happened. The day the episode got aired, my brother also put in his papers, and he said that...
The same day?
The same day,
Okay.
literally. And he said that, no guys, like this is something that needs to be done 100%. So it sort of happened, just by destiny that three of us came together. It was never in the plan that, we would ever start a business together, because we already had a family business, and Josh and I didn't want to join it. Like, we wanted to have our own career paths. But somehow three of us found our way with each other.
And which is a rewarding, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Pashmi, tell me something. You have been into that circle of co-founders. You yourself have co-founders, right? What are those non-negotiable traits कि जिसके बिना one should not go for working together as co-founders? So what are the non-negotiable traits one should look out for?
I think what comes to my mind is Three of them, and this is something that we internally also talk about a lot. One is resilience, of course. The second is a shared vision. This is so important because if you are on a different page, it's going to be very hard to convince the other person. Having a family be your co-founders is easier because you understand how they operate, you know what their strengths and weaknesses are, which is why we conclude to a shared vision faster than other people would. And largely the third one is hunger, because if you're not hungry enough, that ambition to drive a business is never going to come. And I feel like motivation is something that's intrinsic, that cannot be got from outside sources, which is why I feel like hunger is very, very important.
Okay. Pashmi, you started from ground zero, and you understood the product, but there was a lot of hard work which has to happen. इतनी चीज़ें करनी पड़ती हैं as a founder, I know about this, that you can't even think of. So आपकी लाइफ में या कोई ऐसा मोमेंट था यार कि ये नहीं करना आता या कोई चीज़ नहीं आती, but as a co-founder you can't really say this to your employee. So how did you handle those kind of moments which are very challenging? And there would be immense, I'm sure.
There were numerous moments like that, and if I just look back at the last 12 months, every day has been such where you're thrown challenges you're not even prepared for, because the moment your business starts gaining momentum, your problems also start gaining momentum.
Right.
And that's when you need to put a brave face forward and understand that, okay, this is not something that I know how to tackle, but I know that I will tackle it. And I think that's just the strength from within that you have to put forth. I would say that it's important to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are. Also get a buy-in from your co-founders. If somewhere you're stuck, right, always ask for help. There's no reason why you shouldn't, and it's okay to bear yourself out there and know if somebody else is doing a better job, ask them for advice or ask them how to navigate through a problem. Same is with employees, and we say this very, very often to everybody in our team, that if you don't know how to do something, come and ask. Ask dumb questions. There is a way to get things done. There are two ways to get things done, but asking is the only solution which will help you move forward.
Right. So you are saying that it always pays to have an open culture.
Absolutely.
And mistakes should be made and mistakes should be spoken about.
Yeah.
So that you can draw inferences or problem ka solution mil jaye. Right. So coming from co-founders to the core team members, if you talk about, and I'm not talking about designations, those superficial designations and organization structure. I'm talking about the skill set. Because I know that, three key people which are co-founders, then employees number 1, number 2, number 3, whosoever it is, what is important? Designations or the skill matches that we need to see for the core team that we're talking about? That's what.
So I think more than the designation, it's the attitude of the person that matters the most to us. While we were in the 0 to 1 journey, things looked very different for us. We hired people who knew how to do the groundwork, who were okay to get their hands dirty because that was the need of the hour, and that's what we were doing as co-founders. But as we sort of matured as a company, this journey now needs us to have people which will have the attitude similar to us, who will be as resilient as how we are. So imagine, having 3 mini-me's in the company, and the major point over there is accountability more than anything else, because then you can always rely on one person to be accountable for the function that they're dedicated to.
So if you talk about mini-me, is it a wishful thinking or do they actually exist?
No, they 100% exist. Okay. I feel like you need to start grooming them early on, because if you see that spark of you in somebody else and you teach them over a period of time, they will 100% pick up and they will be at a level that what you can operate eventually. So they definitely exist, and in our company we've had those interesting roles as well. We do not have the head of department or roles of that format at all. We have something interesting like an entrepreneur in residence, because that person perhaps wants to have a startup of his own one day.
So those kind of aspirations should be considered.
Absolutely.
Right. After the Shark Tank, the story was different. How was it in terms of hiring people before that? Because once the Shark Tank was out, I think the company was known, the founders were known. Attracting a talent would have been much, much easier. I'm sure you'll understand what I'm saying. How was it before that? Those 3 years, those challenges, how did you tackle those challenges?
I think one is recognition, like you rightly said, and two is also the capital, because to hire good resources, you need capital. Now, our journey in the starting was completely bootstrapped. We had limited capital because whatever was generating the business is sort of what we would put back to hire people. We hired people who may not have, the skill set or the degrees, that we were really looking for, but they had that hunger to build something with us. And that's when we hired them. We were just 3 people. I think for 2 years into the business, we were just 3 people. And slowly we started hiring people more in the operations role, because that's something that's very intensive when it comes to an ice cream business. Post Shark Tank, of course, things looked very different. We had a certain level of capital that we could invest in human resources. And people were very, very excited to be a part of this journey. And I think till date, they want to be a part of a dynamic environment, and that's something that drives people as well. So that helps eventually.
Definitely. We are always talking about 3 people, right? I really want to ask you that why was your father not involved? Why to leave him behind,
So funny thing is, he's the one who actually helped us with every single thing. And while, of course, as a designation of co-founder, he's not there because he has his own business to run.
Right.
But he's the person that we always go to since day one. In fact, a story here that when we started, we did not know really how to go about the manufacture, etc. He was the one who found a third-party manufacturer for us. We had to design tubs, which were like
those plastic tubs.
Plastic black tubs,
Right.
and they needed to be labeled, right? So there's a process to it which is called IML, and we couldn't afford the minimum order quantities of that. So my dad said, you know what, we'll just label it. And it was like 4 of us sitting at home every night and sticking stickers, onto those tubs to make it happen. So he's through and through been a part of our entire journey. And again, I feel like ideally it is 4 co-founders.
Right. You know what? If you just spoke about those things that you've done at your homes, labeling the stickers and all those things. I think we all used to do that, during the Diwali time. I think we are well trained to do it as a family. Pashmi, as per you, क्या ज़्यादा difficult था? Raising a capital when you actually thought that it is required, or raising a strong team? What was more difficult? I'm sure both are difficult, there's no doubt about it. But what was more challenging for you?
So, like you rightly said, both are equally difficult. However, one above the other, I would pick, getting the right team. Because even after raising funds to get the right team, you can make so many mistakes there. You can hire somebody who's more expensive and who's not a fit for the role, and we've done those mistakes and we've realized them. With a lot of capital, sometimes you end up even overhiring,
right.
Which is something that a lot of startups do, and I think it's a common thing that people have faced in the industry. So I would say getting the right team, raising the right team is definitely harder.
It's definitely harder. And it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
You got the funding, so you got it. But when it comes to team, I think it's a regular hustle that one has to do. When it comes to your company, which is like, 6-7 years into business, what has been your core, USP when it comes to the human resource part of things or people part of the things? Any cultural USP that I'm talking about, anything else?
I think culturally, the number one is a never say no attitude, and that's something that we promote in our organization. Of course, there are a lot of people who already practice that and follow that through, because startups are made in such a format, right? Like you have to constantly face challenges, problems, and figure out how to solve them, rather than say that this is not something that I can not do or I do not know. You have to figure it out. So that's one. The second is we have a mindset of following up very, very strongly in the organization, because we strongly feel that every task that you will assign to, you're not going to just pass the ball over. It's your responsibility to make sure that it's done end to end, and which is why following up is not just one task, but it's a mindset, and that's something that we've cultivated.
So it's a good cultivation which is happening.
Yeah.
A regular flow. When it comes to capital, as we spoke about raising a capital, Pashmi, do you think that ये जो capital raise हुआ था, ये Shark Tank that I know, whatever the amount was, अगर वो capital 2 साल पहले आता, या फिर 2 साल बाद आता, या फिर number double होता, what could have been a better situation for you? And let's talk honestly on this.
So honestly, I feel like Shark Tank season 1 is when we were aired, right? And we were very early in the business. We did not have distribution in a lot of cities, which we do today. So I would say maybe 2 years later would have been a better time for us to raise that capital and utilize it. Reason being that we would have had our distribution sorted far more than what we had earlier. But of course, we went in, without thinking anything through, and we said, hey, there's this show that's airing, and let's just apply, let's see what happens. So it all sort of fell really well for us. But yeah, given a choice, I would say 2 years later and perhaps double.
Okay. So, I'm sure you're exposed to every single dimension of the business that you're running, right? Let's talk about finance. एक सिंपल सा फॉर्मूला कि यार 100 रुपए लगाए धंधे में, 50 रुपए का मुनाफा किया, 30 रुपए धंधे में वापस डाले और 20 घर ले गए. So you please help me understand the whole equation as per you, a game of evaluation and valuation.
So if I were to say very simply, valuation is the price tag of the company, okay? It determines what your current revenue is and what your future projections are going to be. If I were to put a formula to it, your valuation is equal to investment divided by the equity percentage. And that's the simplest formulation. When it comes to early stage companies, valuations are done basis revenue. When it comes to slightly late stage companies, they're done basis profits. Okay. So that's how it is.
So Pashmi, a simple question again. I'm sure it must be asked 100 times to you, right? It must have come to your kitty. If your business has to grow 10x in the next 5 years, what would you invest in and why? And I'm talking about this question in the context of machine versus human.
I would say a mix of both. Given that we are at the cusp of a very huge technological reform, I think AI is going to go massively.
Okay.
So number one would be, of course, a lot of investments in AI to sort of get processes and systems up to speed so that decision making is faster. So that is one. Second is people, because of course you need people to run the business. You need large teams to operate, and the sort of scale that we are anticipating in the coming years is going to be immense. To get the right mix of talent who align with our vision, and I think that is definitely going to be a big investment at our end.
So difficult to choose one. It has to go.
It will be both.
Yeah. So both the powers have to be unleashed when it comes to all this. And Pashmi, when it comes to you, there's a great learning which might have come while running your business. But what is the greatest learning that you have got in terms of dealing with your investors or stakeholders, and how do you actually see to it that you become better in that game? Because it's an unstoppable game of business.
So honestly, we've been quite blessed with our investors because we have strategic investors that help us, move the needle for a lot of functions, be it middle management, senior management, or the distribution that we got access to. I think the number one learning that we had is always pick a partner who will take your hand forward in the journey, and you realize that by understanding what their vision is. If they have a large vision for you and for themselves, then it's a long journey, and you just need to be willing to take that. It doesn't have to be shortcuts. It doesn't have to be, that, okay,
instant.
We're just, we're going to get like instant money out of investing in your business. I think it's not about that, but it's about carrying a legacy forward.
Pashmi, कितना मुश्किल काम है. One is to find a right co-founder, then cherry pick your employees, and then to see an alignment with your investors and stakeholders. I think it's a game of, it's a different game altogether. It's a regular challenge. But as you rightly said, yes, it has to be a well-formed vision and a common vision in terms of investors and stakeholders. Also, when I studied your business and understood what you have been doing, why did you choose contractual manufacturing versus the in-house manufacturing, right? There must be some advantages. Can you throw some light on those advantages, one versus another?
So I think firstly, we were completely bootstrapped, right? We did not have the means to set up our own manufacturing unit, and we decided that okay, let's approach a third party contract manufacturer. We'll get our products done there. As we decided that okay, this business is to scale, one unit did not suffice. We had to get another manufacturer, perhaps to take care of the north and east region, and that's what we did. Ultimately, we would want to have our own manufacturing. I would say it's a good turning point for us because till the time you achieve a particular scale and the brand gets a little bit known in the peers, that's when you can finally get into the whole manufacturing process because that's a whole different ball game. The advantage is of course that you can control quality, you can control input, output, etc.
Economies of scale, everything comes into
Exactly.
picture.
So everything comes in with that, but just given the fact that we did not have a manufacturing background and we wanted to outsource that function of the business, that's why it was a conscious call. But yeah, going forward, that's something definitely.
So all the best to you. I think that's a good thought to have. But we also make our viewers understand that what is this cloud kitchen concept? What exactly does it really mean, at least in parlance of your business? कि चलता कैसे है?
So cloud kitchens primarily are dark stores. Okay, so you do not know how it looks like, or it's not a full-blown restaurant or a store as such. But there are multiple brands within a particular lat long. Okay. So they operate from this one particular location, and there is a Zomato or a Swiggy or any other aggregator who can send their delivery person to this dark store, pick up your stock, and get it delivered to the customer. So it's more like the customers do not know how it looks like, right? Which is why it is called like a dark store or a cloud kitchen or a ghost kitchen for that matter. But your product gets delivered. Now for a packaged business like ours, it's very, very easy to plug and play because we just have to set up a freezer in that space, provide a manpower who will manage the dispatches and the stock and everything from that dark store, and that's how it is sort of done.
So if you mean dark stores, I'm talking about the manufacturing side of things. So is manufacturing also happening in those stores? How is it?
So there's no manufacturing that happens there. We manufacture at a central facility and we dispatch all of our stocks to the dark stores.
Got it. I was under this view, like most of the viewers would be, that you are getting it done and properly prepared and manufactured in various locations, just like cloud kitchen concept is, which is not the case with you.
Yeah.
It's a centralized operation that you have. Okay. Pashmi, tell me something. What's your thought when it comes to brands that you see? We all see them. They seem to be super obsessed about the color, about the packaging, about the logos and stuff like that, But in this meanwhile, they are ignoring the people side of those things. Probably not taking care of the employees that has to be taken care of. And I think which is very essential for the brand building per se, for the long-term brand. So what's your thought about taking care of people vis-a-vis those nuances of brands in terms of shape, colors and sizes?
So honestly, I'm the one who's super obsessed about what Pantone blue is our logo and what font needs to go where, and that's something that my entire team knows. But that's just me. However, it's really important to maintain that. That's the consistency of the brand that you're building, especially in the early days, because that's what the customer is going to remember. I don't think it's a comparison with taking care of your employees versus this. I feel both aspects are very, very different. Branding is a whole different ballgame, and I feel like one person and one team needs to be dedicated to just doing that. Of course, the other co-founder will take care of the employees, and that's something that's given.
Great. What's Pantone Blue?
So Pantone is actually the shade basically, and there are like lots of
a very specific shade.
So it's a very specific. There's a number to it. So it's a number, and that's what the Pantone recognizes.
It's a color code that we're talking about. Okay. When it comes to the business, we always take care of the internal employees. The first priority that way is, how should we devise a way in terms of keeping an ethical code for the businesses to deal with the stakeholders and investors? What's your view on that part? Because they are external to business, but still they are partners into the business. So any ethical code which has to be maintained?
So I feel honestly employees come first. They are the backbone of running your business.
Hmm.
Investors are something that can be tackled, especially when
The People Engine podcast is our effort to bring forth conversations from the perspective of human resources because we truly believe it's the people who make the businesses. Follow us for more interesting stories.